I'm going to work through two problems with you today. So I want to talk about the distance formula because sometimes we talk about the distance formula, but we really don't draw the connection. Oops, sorry, Y1. We don't draw really the connection on what it means. Okay, so hopefully you'll be a little bit surprised. Maybe you'll learn something. So this is going to be x2, y2. So this is my first point. He's in red. This is my second point. He's in blue. And I want to find the distance between the two. Okay, so what I want to do first is recognize that if I go horizontally, and then if I go vertically, I'm going to be making a right triangle. Well, if I use Pythagorean theorem, I can find the length of this side because it would be the hypotenuse. Okay, so how would I find the length of that side? Well, if I take just the x's, because remember that this would be the point x1 and this would be x2. If I subtract those two, I'll find the distance between them. So I can say x2 minus x1, and that's going to correspond to my a squared. Okay, so that's my a squared. Plus b squared is c squared. Okay, so if I look at that, if I do the horizontal distance, so subtract to find the distance between the two and square it. Okay, then I need to find the vertical distance. So if I take the top value minus the bottom value for y, or the bottom minus the top, it doesn't matter. Okay, I would have plus y2 minus y1 squared, and that's going to correspond to my b squared. Okay, that's going to equal this length right here squared. Well, I don't want that length squared. Okay, what I want is just the length. So if you'll notice, if I take the square root of both sides, that's going to give me the distance formula. So all this is Pythagorean theorem on steroids. Okay, it just looks kind of scary, and you're just taking the square root at the end just because it makes it easier to plop stuff in. But all this is Pythagorean theorem on steroids. Now, let's go a step further. What happens if I make a cool circle in here? Okay, what do you notice? You notice that the center of the circle to the edge of the circle would be the radius, right? So when we're looking at the formula for a circle, we've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. So in this case, this would be h and k. So I would have h and k, and I would just take my x value and subtract off h. Okay, that would tell me the distance here. I would take the y value and subtract off k. That would tell me the distance here. And then this time I'm going to leave it in Pythagorean theorem format. I'm not going to square both sides, but that will equal the square of my radius. So the h and k value, if you pull those out, will be your center. Okay, and then the square root of this, so the square root of r squared would give you your radius. So that brings me to the second problem that I want to walk you through, and that's going to be just finding the equation of a circle in standard form. So this is general form. I got all my x's clumped together. I got my y's clumped together. I got some constants going on, but I want to organize it a little bit more. So I am going to put all my x's together with a little bit of a gap. So I've got x squared minus 8x. Okay, I'm going to put my y's together with a little bit of a gap. So I've got a positive y squared. And then I am going to add my constant to the other side. So if I were to add 9, that gives me a positive 9 over here, which I should write in a different color. Look, now it's black. Okay, so that's going to equal 9. So I've got my x's clumped together. I got my y's clumped together, which there's only one y term, and it's squared. But there we go. So what I want to do first is complete the square on this. So how do I complete the square? Ignore everything else but the blue stuff. Okay, so to complete the square, I would take half of what's fixing to be my middle term, and I would square it. So half of negative 8 is negative 4. Squared, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. So I have created out of thin air a positive 16. So in order to maintain the balance of the equation, I need to create it on both sides. Why on God's green earth am I doing that? Because when I factor the blue stuff, what are two numbers that multiply to 16 that add up to negative 8? that would factor down to x minus 4 times x minus 4. But we are lazy math people, which means we're going to write that as x minus 4 squared. Okay? Then this term is already done. So I've got plus a y squared, which I can say y minus 0 squared if that makes your brain happy. To me, that makes my brain more cluttered. But you're not adding or subtracting anything to y. And then that's going to equal 25. So now we've got, again, that should be black. Okay, so we have now the standard form of a circle. So the center of my circle means I would change the signs on both of these. Okay, so my center will be at positive 4, 0. And then my radius, remember, be very careful. This is squared plus this is squared, which means this is squared. I need to take the square root of that in order to find the length of my radius. So my radius is going to be 5 units long. Okay? And so this is standard form. All you're doing is completing the square here, here, and here, here and here. But remember, all this is Pythagorean theorem on steroids. Okay? You're finding the distance of the radius from the center to the edge. And then this will tell you what the center is, and that squared is your radius. Okay? So, or the square root of that is your radius. So if I were to plot this, I would have a center at 4, 0. And then my radius would be 5. So I need to go this way 5, this way 5, this way 5, and this way 5. And then attempt to draw a circle, which I'm not doing very well. And that is what your picture would look like. It's supposed to hit there and there. It looks more like an egg, whatever. All right, so this would be your answer, your standard form of the equation. I'm not going to put that. I'm a lazy math person, and that's cluttering my brain right now. So I'm going to put x minus 4 squared plus y squared would be 25. And then your center, you pull straight out of here, change the signs. Your radius is 5 because it's the square root of this. And just remember, if this had a number added or subtracted to it, you would change its signs as well. So if this was a y minus 3, you would pull it out and make it a positive 3. And that is all about distance, Pythagorean theorem, and circles, and how they all play with one another.